Welcome back. Thank you for joining us for this bonus episode. Listen, I got one of my favorite people with me today. You're not going to want to miss this. We're going to take this vital conversation around core messages and we're going to link this to leadership. If you know anything about me, you know leadership is my jam. I love talking about all things leadership. I love helping people embody leadership and begin to self-identify as a leader. So don't miss this episode. Come right back. Let's go. All right, welcome back. So I have with me one of my favorite people on the planet. I've been married to him for 38 years. He is truly my best friend. He's one of the sweetest gifts God has ever given me, and that is in the form of my husband and best friend, Dr. Alex. Alex, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
All right, good. All right, so what I thought might make a lot of sense for our listeners today is if we take this conversation we've been having about core messages and really link this to the conversation of leadership. Now, for those of you that know a little bit about our history, we have a organization dedicated to really expanding both our understanding and maybe the way to identify as leaders. So we have an organization known as Life Concepts. Leadership is for everyone. And we believe leadership by definition is simply shared responsibility, right? It's a shared responsibility for a desired result. Nobody is exempt from that. So we believe leadership is not a right for some, it's a responsibility for us all. And if we live that way, man, does that change both how we do each other, our contribution on the planet, and ultimately it changes humanity's entire, maybe entire realm of what's possible. So, Alex, I wanted to kind of think through with you this idea of core messages. So we did a lot of work on defining a core message. We understand the weight of it. We understand how it's conveyed, how it moves. But one of the primary core messages that we don't talk much about is that leadership is something other people do. Like maybe nobody ever said that to us directly, or maybe said that to our listeners or viewers directly, where leadership is something other people do, right? And those other people are people who have an MBA, people who are super, super smart, people who are charismatic or whatever. There's this core message around leadership that makes it somebody else's possibility. And as a result, we don't self-identify as leaders. And I think that part of our entire conversation has been around getting us to look at how messages have shaped our sense of self or our identity. And as a result, the absence of messages has created an absence in our sense of self or identity around leadership. And so I just wanted to talk about that. I want to see if we can connect the dots for people around leadership being one of those messages that maybe we didn't receive well, you know, around what was possible for us in leader. Can you think about maybe your earliest memory of maybe leadership or the idea of that, and whether or not there was something you could maybe see yourself doing or being?
Definitely. Early on, so I would go to the childhood. Okay. I enjoy playing, I guess what we call pee-wee football at the time. And whereas, position-wise, you was able to lead, and or to showed up, I guess, when it's playing time. And so sometimes you start off leading exercises, or you got in front of the line, so and kind of help everybody warm up with the exercise, and then start looking at that like, okay, I can do this, or I desire to do this. Mm-hmm. So that's probably some of the early deal on. And then as we kind of went later in life, or to young adulthood, kind of start opting out, especially as when you were saying that. So with me, I didn't, have the college degree, or didn't go to college, and have the degree. And so a lot of times seeing different ones in leadership positions that had, they running through those acronyms or those letters behind your name.
MBAs and ABCs.
And so you to have that.
Right.
And so you're like, okay, so leadership is not for me, or I'm not a leader, or
wow. Yeah.
Maybe one day I get there. But then moving fast forward to now, you just, well, a couple of years ago when we started talking about this leadership and really understanding, it's like, being, like you said, being responsible. Yeah. You're opting in and you got to show up, and I understood that. So
That's good.
Yeah, I am a leader within.
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting you would say, I opted out, right?
Yes.
And I would think, man, can we all relate to that, right? But I think part of that is to your point, like we start assessing, where we start comparing, well, if that's a leader and they have, an MBA and they have, a college degree and they are articulate, so we start disqualifying ourselves by qualifying them. And so to your point, without anybody ever saying, Alex, you cannot be a leader, we internalize those messages. We absorb that because we're always in self-evaluation by looking at other people, right? And that's what they call that social comparison theory, where we measure ourselves and then we begin to move out of that measurement based on comparisons all the time. But it happens so fast. I think, and so so that was a message that somehow you internalized based on some level of comparison. What maybe nobody actually said, Alex, you can't lead. But somewhere you began to absorb some level of concept around what a leader was, and you felt like you didn't check all those boxes. And so, then we opt out. Yeah, that's true. So what about this then? Because I think that what also is true for us is once we determine that leadership is an external thing, right? It's something everybody else does. We outsource. When we outsource leadership, that means we outsource our self-agency, right? And think of it this way, because I think that this is so subtle that when we say other people lead, we begin to look for other people to lead us, and we begin to look for other people to manage us. So much so that now my self-agency, which is my ability to act in concert on my behalf, to initiate, knowing I can make a difference, self-agency, I begin to outsource my self-agency. So then I need somebody else to hold me accountable. I need somebody else to manage me. I need somebody else to make sure my decisions are right. So have you ever had a moment where maybe you were like, well, I don't trust my own decision making? Because I know there are people who need to run their decision by 2 or 3 people to make sure that what they're doing makes sense, that it's, it's a viable choice.
Yes, because you do it. And what is so strange about that you feel like that's normal. That's what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
I'm supposed to have someone there managing me or help me see this through, or let me see it clearer. But it's within. Mm-hmm. We talked some talk we've had where you I don't want to go too far.
Go ahead.
Where you do it comes from within, and learning yourself or taking the time to see yourself and sit with yourself. It does. You realize, okay, it's within already, and you kind of just take the power back, or the understanding, or the understanding back, and just realize, okay, it's from here and not from someone else, or from the wife, or from a brother, from a mother, from your parents, your dad, or something like that. So.
I don't think we think about self-management and other management in that way, right? Like something as simple as, I'm gonna shop my idea, I'm gonna shop my decisions, I'm not gonna trust myself with this decision, let me run it by, I'm gonna get about 10 people to pray with me, you know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. It is the motivation, right? It's the so what behind that. Is it because I lack self-agency and self-trust because I don't see myself as capable of self-managing? So I need a manager. Because what this looks like in an organization is, because I think leadership is a self-mastery skill. I believe leadership is a self-mastery suite. It's a suite of skills that you can't manage what you don't know, and you can't master what you don't understand, right? But what's important about that is that for me, it's almost as if when we have this kind of idea, right, that I need somebody else to manage me, in the workforce, it looks like people who are great at self-management get more work. People who are not good at self-management get more attention. Think about it.
That's good.
Right? So sometimes we're mad because I'm being micromanaged, but is it because I can't self-manage? What are your thoughts when you think about it? Possible?
It's very possible.
Very possible.
Yes.
Very possible.
Yes.
Right. And then we're mad because everybody micromanaging us, right? But as long as I'm missing deadlines, I'm not finishing my work in a professional way, I'm not doing great quality work, I'm inconsistent, and then everybody gets promoted around me, they get promoted ahead of me, and I'm mad about that, as I maybe could and should be. But am I really looking? Am I looking at my inability to self-manage? Because we would never think that on a job, if I'm getting more work, now that's not necessarily a great thing. I'm just saying the distribution of work is in relation to the people who can self-manage. The distribution of attention is in relation to the people who aren't so good at self-managing. And so I just wonder if our listeners today are just beginning to see that maybe because I've always externalized the idea of leadership, I have deferred my self-agency, and I've asked somebody subtly, right, tell me what to do. I don't make any decisions on my own. I want to run everything by everybody else. I want to be told what to do. I want to be delegated to. You know why? Because if you delegate to me and it doesn't work, guess who's going to be responsible? Well, not me, because I didn't use my self-agency. I use your delegation. And if you delegate and I get it wrong, or I don't do it right, or it's not the right thing, then I can say, well, you told me to do it. So I think we have to really think about just the concept of self-management itself and just how it shows up in our world. And maybe this core message, the absence of knowing that I can lead, the absence of being able to define leadership in an inclusive spirit, right? Because leadership at its nature is inclusive. And so as a result, if we define it another way, well, we make 1 million people opt out. Because if I define it by positions, if I define it by team, office suite, corner office, 6-figure income, if I define it by any of those things, I'm going to lose a lot of people.
And so to take that power back again is that being responsible.
Yeah.
So I mean, as a person, as a human being, as a mother, father, you know, or just being taking that responsibility. Mm-hmm. You have to show up.
Yeah. There are people who would say, I don't want to be responsible. I'm just being honest, because there's some people who were given a lot of responsibility early. So they might have been, one of those, like I would actually consider myself one of those kids, where you get in from school, you gotta let yourself in, your mom is working 2 or 3 jobs, and as a result, you gotta be real responsible when you get home. You gotta get your homework. Dinner is going to be prepared for you, but you got to get your work, you got to get your clothes ready. There's a lot of things to do, so the playing is kind of cut short because you have a lot to do because mom is at home and you have to manage as though she is. And so there are people who were given ginormous amounts of responsibility early, and they don't want responsibility. There are people on jobs who don't want to manage themselves, or they want to be a part of managing anybody else. And I happen to think leaders create more leaders. I actually think that my job is to help people move to a place of self-mastery. As a result, we get this beautiful synergy. We get this beautiful interrelatedness, right? So we do better work in the whole as a part to the individual doing the work on their own. So, but I just wonder if there are people who would say, well, I don't want to be responsible. Like, what do we say to those people who maybe, if leadership is about responsibility, they don't want any of it?
Wow. Just not to put more weight on them, or just I'm here for you. Just let's do it together.
That's the key. That's the key, right? Because this is the missing element. Because as long as leadership is an independent enterprise, I don't want it. Like if it's something I have to do by myself, I got to do it solo. Which a lot of people think leadership is an independent enterprise. That is a myth and a fallacy that leads to burnout. It leads to, look, I'm leaving here. It leads to mismanagement of people. It leads to everything from errors to sickness. So you said it right. Leadership is a shared enterprise.
So that would be that team.
Yeah, exactly. And when it's not shared, it is very difficult to sustain, which is why most leaders should be creating more of the same. Right? That's the whole philosophy. Yes. Leaders create more leaders.
We've talked about often too. I'm a big sports fan, NFL at that.
Yes, you are. Come on, Steelers.
and the professional sport. And we talk a lot about when suppose the starters is not playing or is not on the field, that the game diminishes, or that they're not going to win today because he's not playing or she's not playing, so the game's not going to be as exciting.
Wow.
But I've heard some teams come with that philosophy, next man up, and you have to be always ready. You have to be there. We talk a lot. We have a son that's in theater, and I mean he's a swing. So, but So it's not that he's second best or second,
Right.
Is that, but because he's handling so many different roles, and so somebody, whatever, he had to go on as that other character. The show still got to be
at that level,
top level show, Broadway show,
beautiful example.
Beautiful show. So
that's a great example.
Yeah, we don't want the responsibility. We don't want to show up. We're tired and exhausted, but the show must go on.
Yeah, and I actually think that, to your point, like, there's two things that you reminded me of. One is leadership really is about building the bench, right? It's not about looking for the stars. So as long as we're talent scouts, we're going to miss potential. Potential is, to me, the keystone. It's a keystone of great leadership. It's unlocking potential, right? Talent is easy. It's migrating and begin to mine that potential out of people. That's powerful. So we should be building a bench that anybody can come in the game, and we don't drop the level of the game because the second string is in, third string, whatever it is. Every string should have the capacity to be optimum, and that I think is true. So you made me, and what a beautiful example that you use about Ian, in that way. So, but you also said something I think was really important about there's something about responsibility that is not something we can opt out of. I think the idea is when we get it right, we recognize that it is there's mutual benefits, right? There's a long-term implication of it all, right? So it's important that you and I understand that responsibility, while we may not want it, the short and long-term implications will benefit us. They will have a shared benefit, right?
Yes.
So I think maybe in today's, bonus episode, it really is about, like, I want you to connect maybe the messages you heard around leadership to your ability to either identify as a leader, or maybe why you don't or haven't been able to identify as a leader, and see where those messages have taken hold, and maybe where we talked about paring that apart so that you can really begin seeing yourself in a place of self-mastery, seeing yourself in a beautiful place of self and shared responsibility, and what the benefits of that would be for you, for team, for family, for department, and ultimately for the world at large. So I hope this conversation supported your leadership journey. Hope it made some sense to connect some dots between core messages and the conversation of leadership. And I want to thank you. Yeah, you can lead. Thank you for hanging out with me and doing this special episode. I think how different policing would be, as you're an ex-police officer, how different it would be if people really did manage.
Oh, the call load would be
the call load would be
so low, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yes,
yeah, I love that.
Self-management is huge.
It's huge.
Showing up, being responsible for the world, for society, for yourself, for your family, for your friends, would be beautiful.
Game changer.
Game changer.
Can't say it any better than that. Hey, thank you so much for joining us in the bonus episode with my best friend, love of my life, Dr. Alex. Thank you so much for joining, sir. Good to see you. Thank you. We'll see you next time.